Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uba, and today we're going to get some insight into career explorations at the college level. My guest today is Joe Laranjeiro. He
Yep.
is the adjunct professor at career explorations at Rutgers University, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony. Happy Monday. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so usually I start my guests where they went to college. So, where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I went to Rutgers. Graduated 2001, which can't believe how long it's been.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's just go back in time a little. When did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
Yeah, I think in high school it was just expected. I'm a first generation um, born in my family here in the U.S. And the American dream, right? It's one of the main reasons my family came here was for my education and to give me an opportunity. They came from Portugal overseas, and it was always the expectation that I was going to pursue education as long as I could. So college to me was just always a no-brainer. I never really thought about the decision-making process. It was almost made for me.
Oh, fantastic. So you go to Rutgers. What's it like? What'd you think of it?
Yeah, I had a great time, probably too good of a time at the university. Looking back, I mean, again, wonderful memories. Some of my closest friends, 20 years later, are people I met at the university. One of my best friends is someone I met in the dorm in my freshman year, right? And I've been in wedding parties of individuals I met at the university. So I had a wonderful experience there. And academically, I probably could have done a little bit better. But looking back, I think it was all for the best. And not to say you shouldn't do well academically. I wish I had done better. But the people skills, the relational skills, the ability to communicate with diverse sets of individuals, ask someone out on a date, join intramural sports leagues, be part of a fraternity. Those kinds of skills, looking back now, really played a really important part of my career after Rutgers.
Yeah. So you graduate Rutgers. What's the path that one takes from graduating Rutgers to actually staying at Rutgers and becoming an adjunct professor there?
Yeah, not the path that I've been taking. That's for sure. I only started this about 2 years ago, and I'm 41 now. So I started when I was just 39, which means between 2000 when I graduated at 20 for the past 18 years, this was unimaginable to me. By the way, Anthony, when I was in school, I really didn't have much of a direction. I chose economics. That was my major because it appeared to be the most broad, and I could get into a variety of things with that degree. I didn't have to really put myself into any one specific avenue. And I really fell into a job like most people do. I think they just fall into something. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You have a connection, someone, you just choose a major and say, well, I can't stay in school forever. I got to go with it. And then you go with what's open. That's what I did. I got into data and finance, accounting, a bit of data analytics started there. And then long story short, I built a career around data science and around consulting, working with companies on their strategic planning, on their technology, on consumer data, on focus groups. I work for the Nielsen company, so TV ratings, media, digital advertising, and that was where have spent the majority of my career doing that. And in the most recent couple of years, with my transition to Rutgers, I'm actually now working with the Conscious Business Institute, and that is all about this notion of conscious capitalism and how do we create a business environment that's led by purpose and caring about different stakeholders and strong, caring, empathetic leadership. So I work with that organization. Those are the kinds of services that we bring to the market through coaching and workshops.
Wow. So now you're an adjunct professor at Rutgers University with career explorations. What exactly are you doing with the students there?
Sure. So I've created a bit of a hybrid class with, I guess, two things or three things. One is looking back and wishing what I had access to when I was in college. I think it would have changed a couple of things for me. Then it was leveraging my almost 20-year deep corporate career and the expectations of the real world with my newfound passion for conscious business, conscious capitalism, and the softness of social justice, social impact, doing the right thing. How do we bring purpose into our work? And combining those three elements are really what I focus on with the class. And the class is about how do we best prepare students for their next journey after they graduate. And so I bring all those three elements into that. So it's preparing them on the practical, what's expected of them when they get into the business world. How do they prepare themselves for that, right? The tools of resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, interviewing, networking, those kinds of things. And then it's the perspective of how to then work with business cultures, how to work within teams, how to do project management, how to goal set, right? It's preparing them, business etiquette. It's preparing them for that initial hit with reality. And then that other part is around the conscious business is about what is meaningful work? What is meaningful life? What does purpose mean to them? What are the right perspectives for us to have in terms of building that? And also taking the pressure off, because careers are this meandering journeys of unexpected twists and turns. And I'm doing something now which was unimaginable to me, 4 or 5 years ago, let alone 20 years ago when I was in college. And we had to give, I had to give the students, I think we had to give all young people that sense of grace and understanding that things will reveal themselves to them in due time, so long as they keep themselves open.
Yeah. Now, conscious work you've been saying with businesses. Do businesses come to you and say we have certain things that we're looking for, or do you find more that the students are looking for something enjoyable to do at the businesses, or is it the same thing?
Yeah, with the conscious business work, it's business leaders of companies large and small that see opportunities to improve culture, to inspire their people more, build a deeper sense of trust, deeper sense of commitment, is deeper sense that their work matters and what they do every day counts for something, for themselves, for their families, for society, for whoever the stakeholder is in the organization. Is this longing that our labor, our talent, our skills, our efforts are being provided to something that's going to make someone or something better. I think we all have that yearning, that call, and businesses feel that from their employees. They'll call us in to help them figure out what those things are and how can we bring that out of people.
So, what are some of the things that businesses have called you in and said, we want to do something? Do they have some kind of charity that they work towards?
This is more about internal, how they process internally, how they. So let's think about it from this perspective. We all have these core psychological and emotional human needs, and most people, most business leaders, I think we haven't been taught this. They don't know what these are. And when we introduce these, right, and quickly they are, the need for self-expression, right, knowing what your talents and gifts are and expressing it, need to connect to other human beings in a really deep, meaningful manner, to create relationships, like bonds, right? That's a fundamental human need going back thousands of years. The need to make a contribution, that the work we do is not just about filling our 401ks or our paychecks, right? That's empty, that there's other purpose behind it. The need for control over the work we do, our need to feel appreciation and care, our need for psychological safety and for inclusion. We come at it from that perspective, and businesses usually come to us with their vocabulary for one of those things being missing.
Mhm.
Right? We all say that, yeah, our people aren't staying long enough. We're not as productive as we can be. People don't feel inspired. We have a toxic culture. No one gets along. And that's usually one of those unmet needs or more, is really at the end of the day what it comes down to. And we help form that vocabulary. And then we do trainings, we have workshops, we do personal one-on-one coachings on educating them on those things. And then what is the steps that we can do, the how to get there.
So, how many companies are coming to you? Are they like Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 1000, two people companies?
Yeah,
What?
we worked with companies from 1 to 150,000.
Wow.
Some, a lot of publicly traded companies, and others small manufacturer, 30 employees. For us, we can scale to the larger sizes if need be. But at the end of the day, the way that we approach it is the same. It's very human-based, human-centered, human needs-based. And it's about how do we create this sense of giving back and a sense of connection with the work that we do in our labor and with those that are supporting us in that process.
Wow. And what are some of the causes that you find at these companies?
Some of the causes.
Yeah.
So again, we don't work with organizations on what philanthropy they should do or what causes they should support. We provide feedback that your employees will tell you, right? Companies have individuals who have who have lives outside of the business who care deeply about causes. Chances are a couple of them can group together into a few themes that your people really care about. If you take the time to discover that, you'll find it. There's also whatever product or service you have, you're going to find something that's going to align to it, whether it's technology that you can use to bring healthcare to disenfranchised communities, right? Or to bring education, or to include help with our carbon footprint and the environment through your software. There's those kinds of things, but we don't get so involved in what causes companies should support or that they should even do that. The work we do is about a bit about inner transformation, and then those things just naturally come out of that on their own, and that's really where habits become true behaviors.
So the type of students that come into your class, are they juniors, seniors in college?
Yeah, the class is across a couple of different grade levels. I specifically work with seniors who, if I'm in the fall, they're graduating in May and they're a bit panicked. Now I'm in the spring, they're graduating in May and they're really panicked because now it's 2 months away. And help, I need a job. So I work with seniors in my class.
Okay, and when they come to you, are there's certain skills that they're looking for? I mean, you talked about LinkedIn and networking. Does everyone come to you with a different thing that they have to work on?
Yeah, there's a couple of themes. Some come honestly looking for direction. I don't even know where to apply to or what to do. I have this major. I spent 3.5 years on it. A lot of money already spent. I got to do something, and I can't stay in school another 3, 4 years to change course. There's some of that involved. Others are much more certain. Like, I know I want to do this. This is what I really am inspired by, and I need the tools to help me get there. How should I navigate it? It's a competitive market. There's a million applicants. There's not enough opportunity. COVID, right? Recession. And how can I leverage myself into an advantageous position to get seen and get front of the line? So I mean, those two are opposite ends of the spectrum, right? The class honestly is for both. And I think even when one isn't thinking about the other, they really are committed to, when I start going through the material, to, yeah, this actually makes sense, and how can I apply this to my career prospects.
So the name of this show is called Secrets of College Planning, right? So what are some of the secrets in your class that you could give to students that would actually help them find the career that they're looking for?
Sure. I'm going to say one thing that prefaces this is I thread the needle between taking the pressure off and just relaxing into it. My career took completely unexpected twists and turns. So many people's do. Yours perhaps did as well. What you're doing now is unimaginable to be. Maybe at some point, probably when you were in college, you weren't thinking about this.
Not at all.
Most of the big companies that are around now that students are really excited by weren't even around 10 years ago or 15 years ago, let alone when I was in college. The world just changes in so many ways. So I preface everything with just relax, take the pressure off. You know, it's there, but there are a couple of things we can do, right, that are going to help. And so I start with that element of just feeling into it's going to be okay if a couple of these things are applied. And for me, it's about how do we open up the opportunity stream for students. I I say this with a bit of reservation. I'm less concerned about where they start than I am about what they do with what they have when they start and how they plan for 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road. Though I care about where they start because I care about how they're going to come out of their college experience, and I care about their lives, right, and their stress levels and anxieties. Um, so all that being said, it's about building opportunity streams, opening yourself up to do new experiences, new activities, saying yes a lot, joining this networking event, meeting with this person, taking on this project, going on this trip, engaging with this group, this job. It's how do we build out our, I call it casting the wide net of things, because so much of this is about collecting data and getting new data in. Because through that is when we can really start to make choices. I'm a data scientist. That's my background. Um, the more data companies had, the better strategic decisions they can make. And right now, students have very little data. They have an internship, they have a major, they're just too novice, too inexperienced. So I want them out. I want them on the field, off the sidelines, even if it's not the ideal start, even if it's the furthest thing from their ideal start. But when they're there, take that stretch project, take that volunteer role, engage with people from other departments, do informational interviews on LinkedIn, make connections, reconnect with your old high school friends, attend that networking event, play that sport, go to that martial arts gym, engage with people there. Keep building that stream of people, information, knowledge. And believe me, if you do those things, think there are elements that you would never have considered before that will come into place, or it will deeply validate the path you're already on. One or the other could occur.
So what you're saying is take a risk, see what's out there.
Yeah, well, we do talk about risk taking in the class quite a bit, and its importance of it. I call it get out of your comfort zone, right? All growth happens out of your comfort zone, and we do go over that. But the things I'm talking about, Anthony, aren't even risky things. It's just getting up and getting off your hands, putting the phone down, putting unproductive things down, and giving yourself the opportunity to get new information. I use this analogy of soup, right? It's someone comes to me and they say they're tired of this, and that. They tell me they're tired of chicken soup. But if you keep putting the same ingredients every day, you talk to the same people, you listen to the same podcast, you sit in the same spot on the bus, talk to the same people at work, come home, have the same conversation with your partner, and then watch the same TV show and then go to bed, you are not putting in any new ingredients. So it's not a risk in terms of quitting the job and doing a startup or moving across the world, right, on a whim. Those things might come, but the risk I'm speaking of is just opening yourself up to these low-hanging fruit opportunities we all have available to us that very few of us take advantage of.
Now, have you found that the pandemic has put a hamper in students, or has it given them more of a drive to find something?
It's going to be both. I don't speak much about the pandemic in class. I recognize it's there. I don't know if it's good use of my time to just talk about what is, right, and things that we can't change. We know this is going to eventually flip over, hopefully, knock on wood. There's a deep sense of empathy for students who had part-time jobs, who were in school with friends, living in dorms, going to class every day, and then having their lives completely disrupted. We acknowledge that. I acknowledge that. And then we shift over to how can this be to our advantage, right? We're getting better at working through video cameras on our laptops, and even pre-pandemic, video interviews were a thing.
Sure.
And they were ramping up quite a bit. That's good practice, right? And I also talk in my class a bit about, there's growth mindset, resiliency, all those kind of things. I don't know if I get into these labels. What I do say is that things are going to be hard. Things are going to be challenging. There is nothing I can do. There's nothing you can do to avoid that. We're going to hit hurdles. It's and socially speaking, we're gonna have friends we're gonna have falling outs with. We're not gonna be invited to a party. It's gonna be terrible. Illnesses are gonna come. Job challenges are gonna come. We're gonna be stressed. There's gonna be people asking us to do way too much. All these things are inevitable. The reality is, I went through them. Everyone you admire and look up to has gone through them. You will go through them. The right perspective to have is, obviously, how can I use this and leverage this to grow? But also, it's that expectation of that these things are normal, they're okay. It's part of the process. It's not anything to hang our heads on, and we can overcome it. It's giving them that mentality as well.
So do you find at Rutgers, you find a lot of students that want to take your class, or is it more of a class that they don't even know anything about?
We're building a lot of momentum with the class. I think we're increasing sections every semester. The classes are always full, which is good. And the feedback has been, thankfully, very good because the students have done their part as well in embracing the material. But this class gives them a space to really reflect and think. A lot of my job is to ask the right questions. I'm very, I've given advice here. I'm a little more reluctant to give advice as I am to ask the right questions and let the students come to their own wisdom, right? And see where that takes them.
Sure.
So we do a lot of reflections, a lot of scenarios, a lot of imagine this, think about that, what about this? And we do a lot of it in groups. So they interact with each other to get different perspectives and points of view. I open every single class with what I call a good questions activity, where I give students an opportunity to pick from a good questions list. They get into breakout rooms, they discuss amongst each other. And I think through those conversations and back and forths, and through the kind of work we do in this class, it reflect about your values, your strengths, your skills. What social causes do you care about, right? What industries matter to you? And where would you like to live? Like we come up with all these different scenarios and have students really just feel into it, with the caveat, Anthony, that these things are moldable. And my class does not serve to let you find out your life purpose. My class serves to give you the tools of understanding what life purpose should feel like and can feel like, and what are some of the criteria to use. But as all this new data comes in, give yourself the flexibility in the room to adapt and to change. Because my life purpose has changed quite a bit over the years. So we're developing this new program now for students. It's a 4-year journey, a much longer conversation. But we're doing purpose work with them at the start of each year, because I'm really curious to see how their inputs on values and skills and talents and passions and just causes, how that changes year on year based on what they've experienced over the past 12 months. And sometimes you have a conversation, you watch a documentary, you read a book, you go to internship, something new comes to your mind, like, wow, I never realized that. Now that goes into the equation. And that's exactly the kind of thing I want to see.
Wow. So one of the things you said was good questions. What's a good question that you usually start off with?
Sure. I'll give you the 2 examples. So I do this a lot with my business clients sometimes, where I take folks who've been working together for 15 years and I give them a good questions activity. And it's talk about a fond childhood memory that you had. What has kept you up at night over the past week, right? And what you find out is that when you put people in these rooms to talk about these things, almost every time there comes a commonality. We have common humanity. We've all suffered through the same things. We've all enjoyed through the same things. And I call it humanizing the other person. And there's no better way to build good culture than to have strong trust and bond amongst folks. And the way to have strong trust and bonds amongst folks is when we stop seeing others as a transactional means to an end, but as a human being that has the same fears, hopes, dreams, experiences that I have. And that really builds a strong bond of trust. So good questions can do that in a business environment. In the school environment, I introduce them to these things so that when they network and they go to their first jobs, they do more listening than talking. They do more asking than answering. It gets them into that mindset. But also, how do we build a way to really get to know someone on a deeper level. Because if you ask above the surface questions, hey, Anthony, how are you? I'm good. Everything's fine. Fine, fine. Like fine is our favorite word. We always just get above the surface answers. But if you can delve deeper, what's a theme you're working on? What's a personal affirmation or teaching you go back to when you feel like you're in a tough time? Like what carries you through? And you give the person a space to be heard. Not only will you learn a lot, but you're going to build a deep sense of connection to them too. And you're going to form a common bond with them. And that's where relationships, again, this class is a meaningful life as well. And so the good questions and those examples, I can give you others, are how do we get below the surface and give people the chance to really, because people want to be heard.
Sure.
And doing these interviews are when I talk the most, and that's when I'm most uncomfortable. But it's how do we give people a space to really reflect and answer, and that's how we also learn and form bonds with them, because we have a lot more in common than we think we do.
Well, Joe, I only have one more question for you. Usually, because it's coming to the end of our show, I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents, the students that are coming to Rutgers, want to take a class like that? What advice do you want to give them?
Sure. I'll be a little technical on this. I've already given a broad way of answers, I think, throughout the interview. There are three forms of capital that really matter, right? There's your academic capital, of course, your grades, where you go to school. There's your experiential capital, internships, on the job abilities and proof of concept that you've learned skills and you can apply them. And then there's your social capital, which is your network, your contacts. Social capital is often a forgotten one. We think our kids should go to good school, study really hard. If they can get an internship and do some activities and stuff, that's great too, right? That experience will be helpful. Do not underestimate the value of social capital and having a strong network, mentors, advisors, people at companies. You go to Rutgers, there are almost 300,000 Rutgers alumni on LinkedIn. Every single one of them you can reach out to. And I tell my students that I don't care what combination of things you come up with, there is someone doing it. And go prototype it. Go ask them the questions about what it's like. How did they get there? Ask them to be your mentor, right? See where they work. See if there's openings. That is where the magic really happens. And too often we forget about that component of it. And that to me is as important as your academic and experience capital as well. That would be my answer to that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Anthony. Happy to be on.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.